Dwight Howard is one of the greatest big men that the league has ever seen, and even more notably than that, one of the greatest defenders the league has ever seen. And in spite of this, he is routinely disrespected, whether it be from people not believing he belongs in the Hall of Fame, or him not making the NBA's top 75 list, or this reaction when I picked him in the NBA YouTuber all-time draft. Thing is, I think this is the right pick, but I know people are gonna clown it because this guy has a unfairly negative legacy. I'm gonna go with Dwight Howard.
Oh, you lost, Rusty.
Yeah, you lost.
Ow! He's a 4-time defensive player of the year,
Rusty,
and the team needs defense.
There you go, Rusty, you lost.
Pack him up.
You lost.
Pack him up. Pack him up.
Hey, Rusty, you lost, Rusty. There you go. You need defense inside.
Dwight Howard.
Yes, it's been a year since this happened, and yes, I still remember it vividly, but you'll notice in that clip as I was setting up that pick that I knew then what I know now, which is that Dwight Howard is and was about to be disrespected. So why is that? Let's talk about it. Before I continue on this video, if you end up enjoying this video, then please be sure to subscribe for more NBA content. It only makes sense that if you enjoy this video, you would probably enjoy other videos, so subscribe to get the other videos. Also drop a like, it only takes 1 second. It makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. Also, to promote one more thing, for those of you who might not be aware, I actually have a second channel where I post daily content as well. It's lower brow stuff. It's like reacting to your hot takes, talking about small news stories like, for example, Patrick Beverley being traded to the Lakers, which just happened. It's smaller scale stuff like that, but if you want to get extra NBA content, I am 10K away from 100K subscribers over there, so subscribing there would also be much appreciated. So before we get into why Dwight is disrespected, and honestly that's not even the main point of the video, but I did want to highlight it. First, I want to just point out just how damn good Dwight truly was to make you understand why it is ridiculous that he is disrespected in the manner that he is. Dwight Howard is one of the greatest defensive players in league history. Not only was he phenomenal as a shot blocker and post defender, using his incredible bounce and 7'5" wingspan to send shots to the third row and his strength to keep post-up bigs stuck in the mud, but he was also quite versatile on the defensive end. Now, he might not have had versatility to the extent or the expectation of the modern era, but at the very least back in 2007, a guard, he could handle it for the most part, unless it was one of the elite guards in the league. He wasn't a phenomenal perimeter defender, but by the standards of the average big man at the time, he was definitely a lot more versatile. And just as an athlete, period, Dwight Howard is one of the best athletes we've seen at his peak, because for him having the size that he does, the body that he does, to also be able to jump the way that he does, very few people can match that throughout NBA history. One other thing that stands out about Dwight Howard defensively is that when you take a look at the defensive personnel of the Magic when he won his Defensive Player of the Year awards, which he won 3 of consecutively, by the way, the defense outside of him on those rosters is not good. In fact, comparing the defense from these 3 years to the following year, where he actually missed a handful of games, they were first in defense in 2009 and third in 2010 and 11, and yet they were 12th in 2012 when he missed a lot of games. Dwight Howard was pretty much a one-man show defensively. Like, he single-handedly took a not very good defense and made them good. And that is not an easy thing to achieve. And really, actually, I don't like the way I put that. Really good isn't even accurate. Number 1 and number 3 twice defensively with him at the helm as the only really good defender on his team. He is similar in that regard to another player who is routinely disrespected, that player being Rudy Gobert. Being a one-man defense should get more praise than it does. NBA fans, for some reason, are obsessed with the concept of carry jobs, but they only ever seem to credit carry jobs when it is applicable on the offensive end. Completely single-handedly making a mid to bad defense the best in the NBA is definitely a way of carrying a team, and an impressive one at that. But unlike Rudy Gobert, to distance Dwight Howard from that conversation, because he's definitely a notably better player than Rudy Gobert, Dwight was also a fantastic offensive player. Not that Rudy is a bad offensive player, but this is not the conversation I'm here for. I was just trying to make a segue. Dwight Howard actually got the rare benefit of having a team built perfectly to his strengths on the offensive end. Everything was catered in the way that allowed him to be as successful as he possibly could have been within his own limitations. The late 2000s Orlando Magic were a frankly revolutionary team. They were about as three-ball heavy as it gets in the NBA at the time. From 2008 to 2011, the Magic were second in three-point attempts one year and first for the other two. They averaged 26.4 three-point attempts per game, which is low by the NBA standard today, but at the time, the league average for those 3 years was 18 attempts. They were taking 8 more threes a game than the league average. Now, you might be thinking, how does three-point shooting have anything to do with Dwight Howard, who wouldn't take shots from more than 3 feet from the basket? Well, the Magic ran 4 out, 1 in. They surrounded Dwight with shooters and used Dwight's gravity as a paint finisher and post scorer in order to draw the defense inside and generate open looks on the perimeter. As a result, when defending the Magic, you were pretty much picking your poison. Either you allowed Dwight Howard to dominate you inside, which he's going to do because he was so strong it was impossible to keep him out of the paint, and when he got to the paint, he shot 75% at the rim, or you could allow an open three-point shot. And yeah, they didn't love allowing open threes back then, but they definitely were more willing to do it than they are now. Now, Dwight was not actually the most skilled post scorer in the world in terms of polish, but he was almost like a football player playing basketball sometimes, where he was just like, I'm just gonna use my physicality 100% of the time, and he would bully people around the rim. Like, sure, didn't have the best hook shot or touch in the world, but what does that matter if you're able to push your defender into right under the basket and dunk on him? Especially when help defense is going to be a lot more hesitant to come over when there are 4 great shooters on the perimeter. The one major flaw with Dwight that would bite him as his athleticism and strength became less reliable as he got older and dealt with injuries, and he couldn't lean on his athleticism and size as a crutch anymore, was that he refused to be a consistent pick and roll man. Dwight just did not enjoy running the pick and roll or really setting screens, period. He liked the allure of being a post-up big man and just doing all of his stuff one-on-one. And he was very effective at that, but if he would just simply allow for him to be utilized the way he was meant to, rather than the way that he felt like, it would have definitely increased his ceiling as a player, and it also would have helped him with his longevity, because being a pick and roll player is something he had to learn to do more and more as he got older, because he was just not as good at the alternative anymore. Also, another big flaw of his was that he left a lot of points at the line. As much as he got into the paint, he got fouled all the damn time, but he shot really poorly from the line, so he left multiple points that he could have had. To average just 20 points per game while you're averaging 10 free throw attempts per game, which is what he did in his prime, is kind of insane. If you're averaging 10 free throws, you probably should be averaging around 25 points a game. But as a defensive player, there was not much more you could ask of him. And on offense, when things were built around him damn near perfectly, as they were for him in Orlando, he could still be your star offensive guy as well. In his 4-year peak in Orlando, he won 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards. The Magic averaged 55 wins a season and did not dip below 52. And he was second in MVP voting in 2011, even though that MVP race is always framed as D Rose versus LeBron today. He averaged 20 points, 14 rebounds. Did I mention he was also a monster on the glass? 2.5 blocks, and he had a 61% true shooting percentage. He also led the Orlando Magic to the finals at the age of 22, and arguably when he wasn't even quite at his peak yet. Again, this is something that seems to be framed fairly negatively negatively or just incorrectly or indifferently throughout league history, and that is because everybody wanted either a Celtics-Lakers rematch or a LeBron versus Kobe finals. Just like the MVP debate in 2011, NBA history doesn't seem to acknowledge or care about Dwight Howard. They might be like, oh yeah, he was in the race, but LeBron should have won it. And that's about all the discourse that exists about his 2011 season. They'll acknowledge that Dwight went to the finals as the best player, but like, man, it would have been cool if it was LeBron, or it would have been cool if it was the Celtics. And it's not that those opinions are necessarily wrong, but they're also entirely avoiding giving Dwight his flowers when it's due. So the fact that people seem to be indifferent to these accomplishments are really the biggest reason why he is disrespected. It's not as though these things are flagrantly misrepresented, but just simply not appreciated to the extent that other things are. And the other big one, of course, is that he went to the Los Angeles Lakers and that ruined his reputation. Now, to me, I think that's complete unfair bullshit because, first of all, he was playing injured. Second of all, even playing injured, he put up some incredible numbers. The team just overall was not great, and he got to be the scapegoat for a lot of that. And C, there is a third one, but I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of bullshit about him being soft, which is one of the criticisms of big men that I have always hated. Just because Dwight Howard does not attack people, or because he doesn't, care about winning to the extent that he's gonna be frowning when he's losing. Like, that was genuinely a big criticism of Dwight Howard, was that he smiled too much. Are you fucking kidding me? Are we really doing that? It's basketball, man. It's not life or death. I'm sorry. Like, he got criticized so much for saying, hey, I won't hate my life if I don't win a championship. He got criticized for that. He didn't say that he didn't care about winning a championship. He just simply said, it's important to me, but I can live without it. That's what he said, and then got the reputation of just being a complete loser who didn't care about winning because, that's the decision that someone makes if they don't care about winning, is to play through a serious injury and still dominate. It's all very, very stupid and unfair if you look at it in hindsight. And as a result, Dwight Howard, people's memories are pretty short and they remember the last thing. And that's a problem with people in general. It's a problem with how NBA players are talked about. And it's a problem that has plagued Dwight Howard. The most recent memory of him for a lot of people was when he was a scrub on the Atlanta Hawks. Wasn't a scrub, but, wasn't him. So yeah, or their memory was him fucking up on the 2013 Lakers, but again, not even really fucking up. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Dwight Howard. The video went longer than I expected because I had more points to make than I originally expected. So sorry, Rudy, but you get a longer edit now, but that also means a higher RPM. So we end the video. Bye.